All right. We got ourselves the NHL live stream trade deadline show. So, trade deadline today is at 3 p.m. And made a lot of videos last night. So, apologize if that kind of overfilled the feed. I mean, it was a lot of things, a lot of moving pieces. So, kind of wanted to get a lot of videos up. We had a live stream here with my good friend, Chief, co host of the channel. And, quite frankly, it was a lot of videos to make, but I enjoyed what we made. So, we had some more movement right now. Let me kind of, if I can kind of, what's going on here? Pull this up. Make sure things are going up here properly. All right. Cool. It's supposed to be going live on Twitter. I don't have a premium Twitter account. Removing that because I don't care about Twitter. Whatever. For now, that's fine. So, but we got some other trades kind of going down here. Pop it up here on the screen. NHL Trade Tractor. All right. Got some other moves here. Zoom in a little bit, make it a little easier to say. Alrighty, so the LA Kings acquire forward Andrei Kuzmenko and a 7th-round pick in the 2025 NHL entry draft from the Philadelphia Flyers for a 3rd-round pick in the 2027 NHL draft. I think Kuzmenko, really short stay there in Philly. And, for all intents and purposes, it kind of makes some sense that, Flyers are kind of what they are. Kings are trying to make a playoff push. He had 5 points apparently in 7 games with the Philadelphia Flyers. So, you see a little bit of an uptick in his production. Goes to LA. LA's got plenty of talent. They have a very well-built team over there. You add some more scoring depth. I think this is a smart trade. And, for the Kings, they're not giving up a massive haul to get a guy like Kuzmenko. So, you give up, a 3rd-round pick in 2027. Not really mad at that. It's just kind of, the West is a brutal place to try to win right now. A lot of teams are loading up. A lot of teams, have added so much talent. The Western Conference is going to be a bunch of heavy hitters, and I'm here for it. It makes for some fantastic hockey, in my opinion. And I'm really kind of excited to see how this kind of pans out. And he is in the final season of a 2-year, $11 million contract. So, he performs well. Kuzmenko performs well for the Kings and does well in the playoffs. He could raise his stock and maybe see a nice little bump in pay. Who knows? Or stay at the same point, because I know he was struggling there for a while. So for Kuzmenko, this could be a very good situation for him to go into and, really secure himself a long-term contract or a relatively long-term deal for him. I think this could be a solid deal all in all. And as for the Flyers, they get draft capital for a guy on an expiring deal. They go up in the draft technically. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable deal for all sides considered. So Kuzmenko is now an LA King. And then there was another deal that happened. Ottawa Senators acquire Dylan Cousins, a defenseman, Dennis Gilbert, and a 2nd-round pick in the 2026 NHL Trade Draft for forward Josh Norris and defenseman Jacob Bernard Docker. I am a little bit shocked that Ottawa would end up moving Norris. If I'm being honest, because still a young player. Let me pop up the stats here. Let's see. He's 25. So, 53 games played this year, 20 goals, 13 assists, 33 points, -5. He's 25 years old. He was the 19th overall pick in 2017 NHL Draft. When you kind of go down, last year, 30 points, 50 games played. So, I think the Sens want him to be more of that 35, 30-plus goal scorer guy. Um, he could finish the season with 20 plus with a new scenery, right? With the Sabres, but I am a little bit surprised they kind of made that deal happen. Just in that fact, Norris, the guy you drafted, and well, probably not exactly what you wanted. Sometimes in terms of production, he's a competent player. So it's and then so we're gonna go here as Puckpedia gives kind of the best breakdown here. Dylan Cousins, 61 games played, 11 goals, 20 assists for 31 points. Uh, Docker, younger defenseman, 24, cap hit, relatively cheap right now. RFA at the end of this year, so there's going to be some negotiating with his particular contract. Yeah, I mean, Joshua Norris. So you're getting relatively points wise, you're getting kind of an even swap there. And the Senators get a second round pick in 2026. And I think mainly it has to do because I think Norris's ceiling for a lot of people is going to be quite a bit higher than Cousins, even though Cousins has actually been. I mean, he's got a large cap hit. I think that's the main reason why the Sabres kind of moved off of him. So in all, I think value wise, I think the Senators win this deal. I don't know because Docker. I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be a fresh start for Cousins and a fresh start for Norris, right? Because these are the two bigger pieces in this deal, and yeah, that'll be very interesting to see kind of how that pans out. Another deal that happened while I was asleep. Washington Capitals acquire forward Anthony Beauvillier from Pittsburgh Penguins for a second round pick. Another decent player here. 27-year-old on a 1-year, $1.25 million contract. He has 20 points, 13 goals, 7 assists in 63 games played. So he's not going to, he's not coming to the Capitals to necessarily light it up offensively, but he gives them, another good depth, fourth line type player, probably a third line type player, which I think, Capitals, Pittsburgh Penguins, rivals for like so many years. You don't see these inter-division trades as usual, but the Pittsburgh Penguins are able to get a second-round pick for a guy that's at his highest level, really, is a kind of a third-line guy. That's a good return on investment, and it's a win-win here I think, for both sides. The Capitals get a little bit extra depth, and the Pittsburgh is able to kind of get another pick for their future, right? Makes sense in that regard. So it's just it is peculiar to see, how shall I say it, an interdivision trade. Definitely interesting in that regard. Now there's still rumors about Brad Marchand possibly being moved. Oh, and okay. Share this tab. Mikko Rantanen trade to the Dallas Stars. As part of the deal, Rantanen will sign an 8-year, $12 million extension. Hold on. All right, so Jeff Merrick says, sounds like the base of the return for Mikko Rantanen when they get the deal done will be Logan Stankoven and 2 first-round picks. That's interesting. So that, it was funny. We made a kind of a video on that last night in like 2 in the morning when there was a lot of, this was heating up here. I don't mind that. I don't mind that trade since you're going to get a promised extension there for Rantanen. and he goes to the Western Conference. If you're the Hurricanes, you probably didn't want to trade him in conference. So if it's Logan Stankoven and 2 first-round picks, for the potential what you could really have there, it makes sense. I mean, it's a lot to give up, but Rantanen is a star-level player, and sure, he struggled with the Carolina Hurricanes, but, I mean, you've seen what he was able to do in Colorado, and sure, he benefited playing with one of the best players on the planet, Nathan MacKinnon, but I still think there's some value there with Rantanen. I think he can still be successful in his own right. You know, and Logan Stankoven, if that is indeed the return, kind of pop up his contract here. Sorry for all these ads. This is Puckpedia, not me. He has another year left on a very cheap deal, rookie deal. 100,000, excuse me. 29 points in 59 games played. You know, is it a one-for-one value-wise? No, but he's still a young player. He's 22. It's a deal, and then they have, yeah, I mean overall makes sense, and then he's an RFA because he's come out of his rookie year. So yeah, I mean for me, if you get 2 firsts with Stankoven for the Carolina Hurricanes, I still think it's a terrible mismanagement of assets. You know, I'm gonna make that very clear. I think it's they've absolutely botched that trade, right? You dealt Martin Necas for what you bought him for. I just, you get 2 first-round picks in Stankoven, and Stankoven again is a young player, but will circle back again. That trade was such a dumb idea for the Carolina Hurricanes because they traded a guy in Necas who they had 1 more year left to control. Then you're kind of just giving up on that and just understanding you're probably not going to retain him for a guy like Rantanen. But I will say this trade would lessen the sting a bit. If you're able to get 2 first and a younger player like Stankoven, it lessens the blow because you're dealing with a guy like Rantanen that's unable to, or not willing to extend there in Carolina. So if that's indeed the trade, it's not too bad. Not too bad. And oh man, there's a lot of moves. Brandon Tanev to the Jets for a 2nd rounder. Interesting. And then the Penguins, oh man, there's a lot here. There is so much going on. Hold on. So kind of moving on. Luke Schenn from Pittsburgh to the Winnipeg Jets. Schenn has been traded to Pittsburgh from the Predators. And the Pittsburgh flips him to the Jets. And the Pittsburgh Penguins get a 2nd and 4th rounder. I mean, again, I think the Pittsburgh Penguins understand what they're at. Luke Schenn is a quality defender. So the Jets, one of the best teams in the NHL, gets even better. That's an absolutely, like, you're giving up a lot of draft capital, but a 2nd and 4th round pick to get another good defenseman in the room. I'm never going to be mad at that, especially when it comes to the playoffs and you need as much defensive depth as you possibly can because people get banged up. Smart trade. Very, very, very smart trade. Wow. And then the Toronto Maple Leafs, they acquire Loughton from the Philadelphia Flyers. Toronto gets a 4th and a 6th. Or gives. So Loughton to Toronto from Philly for Nikita Gerbikin and a 1st. Oh, and then Toronto in that deal will get a fourth and a sixth. That's interesting. Well, so Toronto making some moves here. Is that kind of up on Puckpedia yet? Let me see. Probably not, because a lot of these trades are just like really happening quickly. Because it's 134. There's going to be some pieces here. Switch to this tab because it's going to be a little bit easier to kind of show trades and things of that nature. Alrighty. See how to, I don't want to talk about too much of trades that are kind of rumored to happen. We'll see till the official. Talk about the Jets trade. Jets acquiring Luke Shen for the Pittsburgh Penguins from the Pittsburgh Penguins for a second round pick in 2026 and a 2027 fourth round pick. I mean, the Jets are such a damn good team. That makes a ton of sense. I think you're able to add another piece. I like that move quite a bit. I do. I like that move quite a bit there for the Jets. I think that's a very, very solid move. And then bring it back on screen. The Winnipeg Jets acquire Brandon Tanev for the Seattle Kraken for a 2027 second round pick. So bringing in some depth, the guy on his last year of his deal. That's not a bad move whatsoever. You know, is it high for a guy like probably a guy like Tanev? Yeah, sure, but good depth forward to get, and the Winnipeg Jets, they're fully buying in. I respect that a lot. I'm glad that the Jets are fully kind of committing to this Stanley Cup run. They have the goaltender, they have the offense, they have the defense. Now they added more defense, added more depth up front. If you're a Winnipeg Jets fan, you have to be really excited about what you're seeing. They're going all in, and they should. They should. They have one of the best goalies on the planet. You should go all in. That should never be a question with what you will have built around this team. So, you know, Friedman has some things kind of out there. We'll kind of talk about that potential deal once it gets official with Toronto and the Philadelphia Flyers regarding Loughton. You know, would make the deal a little bit more digestible. And did it just come down? Let's see. All right, I'm trying to go back to the NHL Trade Tracker because it's weird. Like, there's a lot of. It looks like that is pretty much a confirmed thing. I just think the details aren't out yet. So I'm looking on the official page. Still no update regarding that deal. Luke Shen, Winnipeg Jets deal is official. This trade deadline's freaking crazy, eh? A lot of moving pieces. A lot of moving pieces. You know, and the crazy thing here is, let me kind of pop it up on the screen. Here in a second. Actually, I'm going to kind of adjust a couple things here. Nope, that's not really how I wanted that. No. No. don't know why it's being dumb. Okay, I'll move that for now. Yep, update layout for now. So, kind of looking around the league here standing wise, and it kind of makes sense, right? So, Florida Panthers, number one team in the Atlantic. We already kind of know the wagon they are. Toronto, with that Loughton deal, they're adding some more depth, which I think is smart. Toronto's kind of in that situation due to their cap restrictions. They can't add crazy, but never bad adding some depth. And also, they waived Ryan Reeves, which, it was, in my opinion, not very. I understood why they did it because they wanted toughness, but when they signed him to the term on that deal, the Leafs, I just thought that was a mistake. Tampa Bay Lightning, I mean, they have some really good teams. I mean, all three of these teams have made additions to try to get out of the Atlantic. So Atlantic's got some good battles. Capitals, Carolina, the Devils. Capitals obviously is they've been the star of that Metropolitan Division this season, and they've been brilliant. I mean, considering what we expected going into the season and some of the question marks that we had about a guy like Pierre-Luc Dubois, would he be able to fit? Would he be a locker room cancer? I mean, the Capitals have been friggin' great. And, you've had players like Protas. You've had guys like Ovechkin. I know he's chasing the record. Have really great years. It is peculiar, right? Carolina Hurricanes, due to the Rantanen situation, are sellers. But, I mean, we're just a seller in for that piece. But, I mean, they're second in the Metro. Carolina just always kind of in that conversation of a very, very steady team. And then, New Jersey Devils, I mean, Kovacevic, they extended him. Wouldn't be surprised if, they make another move if they can before 3 p.m. today. Senators, Blue Jackets in the East, they're battling here in the wild card. Same with the Rangers, Red Wings, Canadiens, Bruins. A little bit surprised with the Senators Sabres trade, but not completely, I guess. Maybe some fresh scenery for both players would be a good thing. But I'm not too surprised, like with certain teams, like the Flyers, like the Bruins, kind of selling some pieces, understanding that this is most likely not going to be their year. And then you got in the Western Conference, I mean, look at the Jets, best team in the NHL. 43-16-4 record, 90 points. They've been absolutely phenomenal. You had Luke Shen, you had Tanev as a depth winger, good piece. And now with the Dallas Stars acquiring a guy like Mikko Rantanen, I mean, you get a very good winger there that's star quality. And if you're able to give up Stankoven and 2 first-round picks, well, yes, you're giving up a lot of draft capital. You're getting a star-level player in Rantanen that's going to help this already deep Dallas Stars team get even deeper. I mean, it's a murderer's row in the Western Conference right now. It really is. Vegas Golden Knights, solid team this year. The Edmonton Oilers, I liked some of the additions that they've kind of made there. Adding, like, they got Wallman, very good defenseman, best defenseman on San Jose. And, obviously he played was Detroit before that. He's a very good defender. You add another piece on the back end with the Oilers. I like the move. And then if Trent Frederick, in a bottom 6 role when healthy, back for the playoffs, yeah, I mean, I like the additions. And then the Kings, they add Kuzmenko. It's an arms race in the West. I love it. I absolutely love it. And then the Colorado Avalanche, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make a move here. Another move if they can. I'm interested to see, out of all of these teams, like, who's going to be kind of in on a guy like a Brad Marchand? Because at this point, Brad Marchand would have to be now the best option since the Rantanen sweepstakes is gone. So some of those teams that might have been in on Rantanen, you're probably inquiring on a guy like Brad Marchand. Are the Bruins willing to give up a guy like Brad Marchand to get some future assets? Now, reportedly, the ask by the Bruins management is a first round pick, an NHL level player, and A to B graded prospect in their system. So, will the Bruins be able to make that deal and be willing to make that deal, I should say? That's the genuine question on that. For me, if I'm the Bruins, I would definitely pull the trigger on that. But that's just me. But the Western Conference, man, they're loading up, and I'm all for it. Still kind of waiting here on particular deals. A lot into Toronto one's taking forever. So what is going on here? Why is that? It's. I do think that. I do think, again, man, Dallas is going to be really hard to beat. You know, that's going to be a hard team to beat. I'm going to pull their roster up, go to the depth chart. Oh, did that happen? Did the trade finally happen? Let's look at the. I was looking at the trade here. Hold on. Let me see something here. Share this tab. Some pieces, like there's a player missing here. It's Stankoven. I don't know Puckpedia if they've already moved Stankoven from the Stars. Let me see. For whatever reason. So, I mean, let's just kind of go with it, right? Jason Robertson, Rope Hintz, Mikko Rantanen, Marshman, Duchesne, Granlund, Jamie Benn, Johnston, Donatoff. I mean, that top 9, man, is really good. And when you kind of go into the production of each of these players, I mean, Rope Hintz and Robertson, 52, 54, 64 points respectively. Duchesne and Granlund, 63 points, 52. Marshman, 31, and 44 games played. So point per game, it's still really good. Jamie Benn and Wyatt Johnston and Donatoff. I mean, Johnson, 59 points, almost a point per game player. So you're adding another piece like Rantanen in here, and you're this is going to be a difficult team to beat come playoff time. A very difficult team to beat. There is going to be, like, good luck. Trade hasn't been updated, so, I mean, wow, so many ads. But, yeah, good luck trying to beat this Stars team. That's going to be a difficult ad here. Like, wow. Really, I like that move. If you get Rantanen and you lock him up long term with the cap going up, it's digestible. And kind of looking at the term in some of these deals, Robertson's, I'm trying to remember now. Did he sign? Come on. I hate when this happens. There. Oh, stop it. Trying to remember if he signed another deal. No, so his deal expires after the 25-26 season. So 3-4. I mean, you got Robertson under control, and Rope Hintz under control. Duchesne, year to year. Granlund, I mean, he's on the final year of a deal. Same thing with Jamie Benn. I mean, I think the Stars would be able to retain most of this roster if they wanted to. Jamie Benn's not making 9.5 its next contract. He's not. So I think if the Stars needed to or wanted to, they could really make it work and keep most of the very solid players here on this roster. Just kind of waiting around here for some updates. But yeah, nothing as of right now. We're just waiting here on a holding pattern. But so we'll kind of see how things go. Obviously, there's going to be conversation about Marchand. There's going to be pieces, like who's going to make, another splash now with Rantanen going to Dallas and signing that extension. I'm intrigued to see if anyone gets Brad Marchand or if that's just never going to materialize. If the Bruins are just kind of stay pat. Because you have seen some really massive overpays. Not massive, but you've seen some overpays, I would say, in the recent trades. Like, you're trading first round picks for guys that, solid players, but I don't think traditionally would have first round quality in return. So, I mean, there's that. Brad Marchand, is he truly worth a first round pick, in my opinion, at this point in his career? No. But there's a pedigree there. He's been a Stanley Cup champion. He's been on deep playoff runs. He's a player that you hate to play against, but you love when he's on your own team. And I think in a right situation on a third line, you could definitely benefit having him on your roster. No doubt. I think he's a very good player that, understandably, some people can feel some type of way about, but the guy is absolutely brilliant. And let me kind of adjust something here. Oh, I didn't mean to have that in the title. So, that was because it was supposed to go on Twitch. Whoops. Fix that title real quick. But yeah, I mean, kind of gandering around the league here. Let's see. Friedman, I'm kind of waiting on him. See what else he's got on the docket. But no, I mean, Kovacevic, I mean, he gets extended. 5 years, $4 million per. Not a bad deal. Especially with the cap going up. I mean, man, we're seeing some moves here. Wait, what? No, there's no way that's real. Quinn Hughes to Minnesota. There's no way that is real. That's funny. That's a troll post. So Frank Zaravelli says to Texas. So Mika Rantanen with an 8-year extension in place for Logan Stankoven, 2026 and 27 first round picks plus smaller pieces. Not mad at that deal. Oh, Carolina's also getting 2026 and 2027 third round picks. So, I mean, Carolina's getting a bunch of picks here. So, I mean, there was somebody said that, I think it was Fallout, if you watch this in post, you said that Carolina isn't looking for draft capital. I always think teams, if they can, they're going to get as many draft picks as they possibly can because it gives you as much depth as possible. It's never a bad thing. So, yeah, that's and he kind of lays it out like this. So when it's all said and done, from Carolina's perspective, out Martin Necas, Jack Drury, 2025 second round pick, 2026 fourth round pick, and then exchange they get Logan Stankoven, Taylor Hall, the 2 first round picks, and then the later picks that we just discussed. In 13 games of Mika Rantanen. Obviously, Rantanen would be out here. So, yeah, it's a decent return. I mean, considering that Rantanen wasn't going to sign in Carolina, you get 2 first round picks and a younger player at Stankoven. Could have been far worse. It could have been a lot worse than that. Kind of just bumping around here. So I mean, listen, the Brad Marchand will be interesting. Brad Marchand, the least eyeing Brad Marchand. That'd be interesting. What's going on, Cardona? Good to see you, buddy. Appreciate you popping in. But Brad Marchand to the least. I think it's interesting with Marchand. Most teams would love to get him. Most teams would love to get him, especially contenders. I mean, where would he fit would be a very interesting discussion with Brad Marchand. Like, where would he really fit? But I think most teams he pretty much fit everywhere. I mean, he's on last year of his deal. Bruins could retain half of his salary, so I don't think the salary is that big of a concern in that regard. And then you're able to, get something in return. He's not going any. He's not going to be moved. Boston's backing for the wagon and a horse for him. Yeah, and listen, like I agree. I actually think Boston's over asking what Marchand's true value is at this point in his career. But he's the big trade chip here that people are going to inquire about. You know, what fits. Like, where would he fit? I think there's plenty of teams that would love to have him. You know, it just kind of comes down to what are the Bruins asking for, like a guy like Marchand. And considering you've seen guys like, Yanni Gord and the Bjork, they're getting first round picks in return. I could understand the Bruins asking for quite a bit, right? In that regard, I definitely get it. Now, currently, just exploring this because why not? Cap space available. Toronto's got 876 currently available in cap space. Or Toronto, excuse me. They'd have to move some pieces if they were going to make that happen with Marchand, which I don't really think that happens. But when you got to go down the list, let them put Winnipeg. Winnipeg could feasibly make it happen if they wanted it to. And in Winnipeg, yeah, I think he'd be a nice little piece. I think you could put him in a third line, and it just adds more depth. But, they just added Tanev. And the Jets, the rich would get richer. But the Jets also just traded for some guys, for some pieces. So I don't know if they would be really in on it. Ultimately, I think that Brad Marchand would most likely stay in Boston. I think that's pretty much what's going to happen. Could be wrong on that. Maybe he gets dealt. I don't really see... I don't see him really going anywhere crazy. Colorado... Let me look at Colorado and their situation. That's been a team that's kind of been rumored and linked to Brad Marchand. They got 1.3 available in cap space. And mind you, you can work 3-team deals so you can get some type of flexibility regarding his cap. Because Marchand, before we kind of go through this wormhole, what's his contract? 6 something? 6.1. Yeah. So you could make that, if you got a third team, you could get a third team in if you really needed to. But Colorado, they have 1.3 available. They could feasibly try to make something work here. But, in Colorado, I think he'd be a nice little piece. You got one of the best players on the planet in McKinnon. Martin H has been very good for them. Lehkonen solid. Drouin. You got Brock Nelson, who just acquired. Guy that scored 30 goals back-to-back, or 3 seasons in a row before this year. Nichushkin, when healthy, we all know his value. He can stay on the ice. I think Brad Marchand would just keep adding more depth to the Avalanche. And, and considering there is so much buying right now in the Western Conference, you could make the argument that a guy like Brad Marchand probably doesn't put them over the top, but helps keep them up in that arms race where it wouldn't be a shock to see the Colorado Avalanche win a Stanley Cup this year. They have so much talent, and then you kind of add a guy like Brad Marchand. I think it would make sense. I really do. I think it would make sense to kind of consider bringing him in my personal opinion. So, yeah. I wouldn't mind that. Again, we went over Winnipeg. Some people have talked about Edmonton when it comes to Marchand, but Edmonton, their cap situation. The Bruins just made a trade with them, so I think if they were going to make a trade with Edmonton for Marchand, it probably might have already happened, but would he be a good piece, a good additional piece for this team? Yeah, I don't know if that, I don't believe they can make it work cap-wise. Because I'm just looking at it now. Who are you kind of giving up? Maybe a guy. Not even him, really, actually. I'm kind of thinking about it. If you probably want to keep most of these guys if you were going to acquire a guy like Marchand. So, that is what it is. It'll be interesting to kind of see. And then I get a spam thing on Twitch. I gotta love that. Going back to the trade tracker because I got OCD. Refreshing it. Nothing new yet. I'm trying to see here. Kind of, yeah. I mean, there's nothing really coming down the pipe new right now. Let's see. Wow, Cove to the Avs. Wait, where was that? Charlie Coyle, man, has been traded to the. Oh, man. Charlie Coyle traded to Colorado. Wow. It depends on what the. So this is the thing is, it depends on what they get for Charlie Coyle. If they were able to get a decent draft picks, like first round picks, it makes sense. So Charlie Coyle to the Colorado Avalanche. That is going to be interesting. What would be the return here? What would be the return here? Wow. Colorado. So Coyle. It's for Casey Middlestat. You know? So Chief, the co-host of the No Agenda Hockey Podcast, would be really pissed at that trade. Really pissed at that trade if that's what happened. Let's see. Yeah, I think there's some pieces being moved here. So I was gonna pull it up. So let me go to news trades. Because on Puckpedia, it's like stuff's already kind of moving. So let me kind of do a comparison here. Charlie Coyle, and then Casey Middlestat. All right. All right, let's do it. So Charlie Coyle has been fired into the sun. So Charlie Coyle. If this is indeed the trade, Charlie Coyle, 64 games played this year, 15 goals, 7 assists for 22 points. I don't think it's a crazy thing to say he's underperformed. I mean, he has, right? Last year he had a career year with 60 points, 25 goals, 35 assists for 60 points. He's generally around a 30, 40 point scorer. It's kind of what he is. Nothing wrong with that, but that's kind of what Coyle is. You always kind of, you always want a little bit more with Charlie Coyle. But this season, 64 points, 15 goals, 7 assists for 22 points. And then kind of looking in comparison to Casey Middlestat. 63 games played, 11 goals, 23 assists for 34 points. So the Bruins are getting somebody with a little bit more offensive punch. He's also younger. Charlie Coyle is 33. Casey Middlestat is 26. Middlestat is one of these players that has been, like, you've always thought you get a little bit more from him. So kind of a similar situation with Coyle, even though, Middlestat's the younger guy. His career high in his career was 59 points. And I think the Avalanche they were expecting a little bit more from a guy like Middlestat. I'm just intrigued, like, if it's just a 1-for-1 swap. Maybe the Avs just think Coyle could be a better fit. So I'm hoping this gets updated. Let me see. I'm gonna refresh Charlie Coyle. Wow. Wow. So confirming Middlestat to the Bruins and a deal for Charlie Coyle. If it's a 1-for-1 swap, it's not. That's crazy. Seller. Oh, why is this not? Hold on a second. Apologize. It's not letting me pop it up. Oh, that's why. Sellers in a second. And middle stat. I think we should be making at least one more move. I agree. Fallout says Stankoven, our picks are a fair trade for Drury, not a fair trade for Natchez or Rantanen. I think Stankoven's young, 22 years old. I mean, you could consider him definitely. I mean, you're losing the trade. I'm not gonna sit here and say you won this trade because you didn't. But at least you got 2 firsts. It could have been far worse because Rantanen wasn't gonna resign. And I agree. Sellers, middle stat, and a second is what I'm seeing. I mean, if that is the trade for Charlie Coyle, I think that's a good. I think the Bruins win that trade. I think they win that trade. By the way, sorry guys, I was like popping up your comments on the screen and it wasn't doing it because the certain format I was using. Sorry. But I think if that's the trade, I'm not really mad at it. Middlestat's younger. What is his contract actually? Let me look right now because that's actually I'm actually kind of in Middlestat. What's his contract? Mittelstadt. There we go. All right. Why did it go to Finnell? What is this? I put it in middle. Whatever. I put it. I put in Middlestat. And then this popped up. Nope. What is going on here? That popped up. I don't know why. Let's try again. Mittel. Oh, maybe I misclicked like a dumbass. So he's got a couple more years of control at $5.75 million. So cap wise makes sense. And with the cap going up, I mean, you get a younger player. I'm not terribly upset with that trade. I think the Bruins win that trade. If that is indeed the trade, they won that trade. His cap. Oh, Paul, you're an idiot. Casey Middlestat's cap is 5.75. What was Coyle's? They probably already moved him off here because that report. That's what they already did. The only thing I don't like about Puck Page is all the goddamn ads. Coyle's cap. So yeah, similar cap hit here. 5.25. So I mean, yeah. I mean, interesting. Because he was a 3rd round pick. Yeah, I'm not mad at that move by the Bruins. At all. Like, at all. I think that's fine. Also, you said the Bruins' playoffs hopes are dead. How much of their roster they shake up? Would they be interested in 2 picks for Pasternak? So this is what I think is going to happen. I think the Bruins needed a change in the room. I want to make that very clear. The Bruins needed a complete change in the room. For whatever reason, it just didn't work out. They've had the core there for a long time. It didn't work out. They didn't win. And, I think people got comfortable. Complacency set in. And I'll be honest with you, Middlestat's kind of been a bit underwhelming for the Avalanche, but Charlie Coyle has not been good this year. And you can blame it with some of the parts around him, sure. But you're getting a player that's had more points on the season, probably, definitely a better team around him. But, you get a similar point production, same contract, and he's younger. And then with the cap going up, and then you get, a prospect and a second round pick, the Bruins win that trade. I actually, Charlie Coyle, for Avs fans, I mean, he's a solid player. And maybe a new scenery where he gets a little more pep in his step and you're on a better team or whatever. You get the best version of Charlie Coyle. He does have value in that regard, but yeah, I think for me the Bruins, they're blowing it up a little bit, and I'm fine with that. I think it was time. I think it was time for the Boston Bruins to just completely accept that it's a rebuild. There's nothing wrong with that. The Bruins had over a decade. Oh my God, actually way longer than that. Because if you really think about it, since the 2011 Stanley Cup win, the Bruins, well, not always a Stanley Cup contender every single season. They've always been a playoff team. They've put some good products on the ice. They've gotten close to win other championships. It's just absolutely time for them to blow it up. Your Few Manchus growing, isn't it? Brizov is coming up. Is in a couple of years. Will he be a franchise, or will it be nice to should occupy massive? I think if Minnesota's smart, they try to retain him. I think if they're smart, they retain Kaprizov as they can, because the Minnesota Wild, it's the state of hockey, and there's passionate hockey fans, but if you have no talent there, it's like, why would you go to Minnesota? Yeah, again, passionate fan base, but they haven't won anything. If the Wild want to build a winning culture and they want to build something special, you keep a superstar like Kaprizov. It'd be dumb to let him go. Be dumb to let that man go. So, absolutely foolish. Fallout says, the Avalanche have now acquired a lot of players I didn't think were for scale. Lindgren was the best about the Rangers. Blackwood was always amazing. Yeah, I think Blackwood, that was a great trade. Lindgren, if he's healthy, can be really good. And, that's what I kind of like with what the Avalanche have done for trades. I think they've been very, for the most part, good pieces to kind of help them win a Stanley Cup this year. But this particular trade with Middlestat, you're giving up a younger player, and you're giving up a prospect, and you're giving him a second-round pick for a guy in Charlie Coyle. For my personal opinion, can be a little bit hit or miss. Any chance the New York Rangers will make a splash? Are they packing it in 2024-25 season? I think the Rangers, it's weird because they got like the best goalie on, like one of the best goalie on the planet, right? Because everyone's like, this is the best goalie, this is the best goalie. Like Igor Shesterkin is a phenomenally talented goaltender. Let's just call it what it is. But outside of that, there's holes on that roster. I'm not sure they come out of the Eastern Conference if they get it. It's just everything would kind of have to. They'd have to, like, everything would have to go in stride. And if Igor Shesterkin gets hot, and we've seen goaltenders get hot in the playoffs and carry teams to like cup runs, we have seen that. So like I don't want to completely rule them out. Like if they sneak in the playoffs, I think they can still do some damage if Shesty gets hot. But at the same time, I don't think the sum of the parts around him is good enough for that team to win a Stanley Cup this year. I could be wrong. Maybe Shesterkin gets hot and he gets 5, 6, 12 straight shutouts, right? Like there is always a possibility with an amazing goaltender. But at the same time, if they can smartly trade away some pieces for some draft capital or for some younger NHL level talent. And that's another thing, right? Because I'll say this about the Middlestat trade. I like that for Boston because you're getting younger. I just think sometimes getting a younger player, maybe infusing some youth, a little bit of more speed, could work. Could be good. Agreed. I think they're getting younger and faster. Sergeant go. No, 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 no. Listen. We're not. Please, for the love of fucking God, guys, just genuinely. This. Please don't make it fucking political in the fucking comments. Like, Jesus Christ, guys. Oh my God. Please. Please. I don't want fucking politics on this channel. I have to live with it every day. Let's talk about the NHL trade deadline where trades are happening. For the love of God. Please. No mention of political parties. I should have those as banned words on this channel. Like, Jesus. And you know what, DG? You know what you were doing there. That was you just being a dick there. So, stop. Please. And I want to call you something, but I can't call you it on stream. So I'm going to call you afterwards and call you that. Let's see. Oh. Trade just came down. Blackhawks are trading Peter Mrazek and Craig Smith to the Detroit Red Wings for Joe Veleno. Huh? Wait a minute. Wait, that's not up on screen, Paul. You dumbass. Let's see. Peter Mrazek. So, like, I understand dealing Mrazek. It's just weird because Mrazek's going back to Detroit. Because you got Spencer Knight. So that makes sense, right? You deal the goal. Hold on. I am bamboozled. Because what's Veleno doing this year? Come on. For the love of God. So again, it's Mrazek and Craig Smith to the Red Wings for Joe Veleno. So Joe Veleno, $10 this year. 5 goals, 5 assists. So at least he's even. So Chicago gets kind of, well, he was a 30th pick in 2018. So they get Veleno. How do you spell Mrazek? M-R... Thank God. Yeah, Mrazek. Okay. So the Red Wings get Mrazek. You know, the stats aren't stellar, 890, but I mean, the team in Chicago is not stellar. It's just weird because he's going back home. Like, that's where he started. You know, people looked at him after Jimmy Howard, like he was going to be the guy after Jimmy Howard. Mrazek's one of these weird goalies that has these like he's up and down. He's up and down. And then Craig Smith, how was he? If I remember correctly, I didn't think he was doing too hot. I could be wrong. So, oh my God, so many ads. I mean, 16 points. I mean, interesting. It's expiring contract. Because I remember him in Boston. He was solid for like, he was okay for a couple years. Nashville for a while. Yeah, I mean, that's a weird. I mean, you know, it's. I think that. Could you argue? I think the Red Wings win that because you get an NHL level goaltender. That's interesting. I mean, that's fair. Mrazek, underrated goaltender. I mean, I think Mrazek can be very, very steady. What kind of trade is that? I think the Red Wings. I think the Red Wings are probably just trying to acquire another PC or another. That's that is a peculiar trade though, because isn't Casa isn't Sebastian Casa? He's still there, right? They didn't trade him, right? So I mean, I think they have a goaltender of the future in the system, and that's fair. It is kind of hard to evaluate some of these goaltenders when you put them on very bad teams. I mean, Blackwood statistically wasn't. I mean, he actually had a very good year this year with San Jose, but like years prior, if you looked, you'd say he was dog shit. But when you watched him play, you knew he was a really good. 33 years old, goaltender. I think that's. I think they're just getting him for security for the future in the regards of just having a goaltending. Let me look at because the goaltending depth wasn't great. All right, yeah, because you got Cam Talbot, Alex Lyon, who was a nice story a couple years ago. I mean, the goaltending's been okay. If there wasn't so many ads on this channel or this video or this, how do I X out of this? I'm gonna share this tab, even though we got this stupid ad right here. Talbot 903, Lyon at 9. But they have Costa. Yeah, they still have Costa in the system. He's only 21. Oh, you got the legend Jack Campbell, baby. So, it's not a bad trade, considering, like, you're just getting pieces. So I'm not really mad at that. I'm not mad at that deal at all. Let's see. So Mrazek, he's moved. Refresh you, Saravelli. Give me more trades. Give me all the trades. Actually, this is a new Twitter account, so let me actually follow. I gotta follow some of these people. I have them on my own personal account. Let's see. Cody Glass from Pittsburgh to New Jersey. Okay. Everyone on waivers yesterday cleared, so yeah, okay. All right, so Cody Glass to Pittsburgh, from Pittsburgh, New Jersey. So New Jersey has a little bit more depth there. Interesting. 10 shots asked. Out of Geeky, Zaka, Marchand, who's most likely to be moved next? I think it would be a mistake for the Bruins to trade Morgan Geeky, considering the guy's had a career year. He's meshed really well with David Pastrnak. I just want Pastrnak to have some semblance of consistency. And I think you could sign Geeky for a decent price. I don't think his ask would be ridiculous. So I think his contract would be affordable. So for me, I think you keep Geeky. I think it'd be foolish to trade him. Out of those three, who I think they should move would be Brad Marchand. Because he's older, he's not the same player. But I would not be surprised if they do move Zaka if they could get the right pieces. It's just it's weird for me because I don't truly want them to move Zaka or Geeky. I mean, that's the only line that gets offense for Boston. Let's just call it what it is. The only line. Why would you move any of them? Because without the players on that line, Bruins, have 15 wins? And, yeah, and Geeky, he's fairly young. I mean, when they got him from Seattle, because I'm gonna fact check myself and kind of look at Morgan Geeky. Look him up real quick. Yeah, Morgan Geeky is, I see this out. Morgan Geeky's 26. He'll be turning 28 in July. So he's in the prime of his career, and he's getting better. I think you keep Geeky if you can. And I think you keep Zaka, too. You kind of rock with that line and then build. I think if you can get Lindholm other pieces around him, he'd be better off. I'm intrigued to see exactly how Middlestat will fit with this version of the Bruins. That will be intriguing. Uh, and it's a big shift. It's a big shift. I mean, you trade Charlie Coyle. He's been a mainstay here for a long time since the Minnesota Wild. But Don Sweeney, I think, has done a phenomenal job realizing that this team is not playoff caliber, or even if they're bubble caliber, you want to argue, they're not really good enough to do much damage when it gets into the playoffs because goaltending's been terrible this year, defense has been terrible, offense has been terrible. They have a really bad goal differential. I admire that Sweeney realized, like, okay, like we're not great, but we can kind of have a retool, and that's what I think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a complete rebuild that some people think it's going to be, but I think it's going to be kind of a retool. You shake up the room a little bit. I mean, you got a guy back in Middlestat who has, I think, a higher ceiling than a guy like Charlie Coyle. You're hoping he can finally fulfill that ceiling, right? But you get Middlestat, and then, who knows? Maybe they can sign another couple pieces there in the offseason, and they're back into it, right? I kind of wish the Bruins went out and acquired. I like Granlund when he was on San Jose, but obviously I wouldn't be shocked if he stays there in Dallas. But, I think out of those three, long-winded diatribe aside, Brad Marchand would make the most sense to trade. So this is the official trade here. Let me pop it up. Official trade, first round pick. Colorado gets Charlie Coyle and a fifth from 2026, and the Bruins get Casey Middlestat, Will Zellers, and a second 2025. That's a good deal. Boston. I think Boston wins that trade, hands down. Good deal. So we got a half hour left here before the end, before the deadline is over here. So let's see. Okay, so let's see how updated this tracker is. They just had the Detroit one for the official league. But that's fine. Jeez. Where did my... There it went. Kind of see how this goes here. See how it goes. Let's see. Well, so I think, it's interesting here how things will go.